Curious about vegetables? Talk to East-West Seed. Hello everyone, welcome to Around the Veg Table. I'm Lisette Lacambra and your host for this program. In today's episode, we have invited two of our colleagues from Yayasan Binatani Sejahtera or YBTS, Mr. Arga Pradana and also Mr. Ganang Prakoso, to share their experience on producing shallot from true shallot seeds in Indonesia. So let's get to know our speakers. So first is Arga Pradana. He's the assistant manager of YBTS. And Arga is a dedicated professional with a strong background in agronomy and horticulture. So he joined Binatani in 2013. In 2014 to 2016, he had a role in facilitating the Shallot Net House Nursery Operators Project with the purpose to produce G0 mini bulbs from true shallot seed in West Nusa Tenggara Province. And our next speaker is Ganang Prakoso, who is the team leader of knowledge transfer in the Papua region. He holds a bachelor's degree in agrotechnology and has dedicated the past 5 years to providing guidance and support for TSS, or true shallot seed cultivation in Papua area. So thank you very much for accepting this invitation, Arga and Ganang. And now I'm giving you the virtual floor.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. Greetings from Papua, Indonesia. So thank you, Lisette, for introducing us and for inviting us to join this round vegetable session. And so this afternoon, I and Ganang will share with all of you about the opportunity of producing shallot from true shallot seeds in Indonesia, its benefit and its market. I will share to you, and then my friends Ganang will share about the TSS cultivation. So it is our background to present about this opportunity of TSS in Indonesia. So shallot is one of the most important commodity for the Indonesian people. Almost all local food are using shallots for the ingredients, like for spices, for soups, and then for fried rice. And then shallot consumption in Indonesia in 2022 is around 1 million tons shallots, while the production is 1.9 million tons. It's coming from 195,000 hectares. So the national productivity is around 10 tons per hectare. And 75% of shallot production is placed in Java Islands. Most of the farmers in Indonesia, and yes, I'm sure in Southeast Asia, are using shallot bulb as planting material. It is faster than using the true shallot seeds, but there are some disadvantages to use shallot bulb as planting materials, such as the first is about expensive. The bulb is more expensive than TSS, and not only expensive, the bulb is also very difficult to transport to the farm, and it makes the cost to deliver the bulb will be higher than using TSS. And then the bulb of availability. Sometimes we are very difficult to get the planting materials because sometimes farmers need to make it dry first for 1.5 until 2 months, and then the bulb will ready to sell as the planting material. So sometimes the availability is not available every time. And then planting material from the bulbs need storage, and it's quite expensive to build the storage for the planting materials. And also shallot bulbs it potentially infected by the pests, because most of the shallot bulbs for planting materials are not certified in Indonesia. Yeah, and then yeah, we are lucky. It's already been more than 10 years since we have TSS from a window. but we still has challenge to influence the farmers to move from bulk to TSS. That's why to communicate with the farmers, we state that True Salad Seeds has three benefit. We call it 3M. In bahasa mudah, murah, and menguntungkan. It means easy, cost efficient, and profitable. And then let me explain more detail of those benefit in the next slides. First benefit is easy. In 1 hectare of land, we only need 5 kilograms of true salad seeds. So it will be easier to handle and to mobilize the seeds to the farm area. If we compare with the bulk, yeah, maybe we need to rent the transportation because in 1 hectare area, we need more than 1 tons of planting materials from the salad bulbs. And then through salad seeds are possible to sow anytime with some different sowing method, and it doesn't need a large area to sowing the salad seeds. And then the last is easy to plant, but we have to make sure the protocol is applied by the farmers because for seedling preparation, it required the crumb soil to make the seedling grow uniform and also healthy. And then the second benefit is cost efficient. True salad seed is much cheaper than the bulb. If we compare planting material cost in 1 hectare, the cost for true salad seed seedling preparation is only 28 million in rupiah. It's almost 2,000 US dollar. And then if we use the bulb, the conventional way, we will spend more than 200, more than 2,000 USD. It's around 3,000 USD if we use salad bulb as a planting materials. So at this stage, at the beginning stage in seedling preparation or preparing the planting material stage, farmers already save around 1,000 USD if they use TSS as planting materials. And then the third benefit is about the profitable. At the second benefit, farmers already save 1,000 US dollar for the planting materials if they use the TSS. And then at the end, most farmers got the TSS yield higher than the national yield, which is planted from salad bulbs. TSS potential yield is up to 20 tons per hectare. It's coming from the variety potential from Ewindo products. It makes the gap of yield between the 3SS, TSS, and salad bulbs, and the gap is up to 10 tons, the gap of yield. And it means more income if we use TSS rather than from salad bulbs if we use TSS as a planting materials. And yeah, this slide so the True Salad Seeds cumulative download data in Binatani from 2019 until 2021 related to the benefit of TSS is profitable planting materials. It's proof through our download data. The farmer's net income from growing TSS already growing year by year, and the average of their income is around 900 US dollar in 500 square meter land. If we see the cost on the graphic, growing through salad seeds in 500 square meter need less than 200 US dollar or less than 3 million in Indonesian rupiah. And in the left side, in the bottom part, there is a success farmers. He is Mr. Edi Purnomo. He grew TS true salad seed in Bia, Papua, in the eastern part of Indonesia. When our field staff told him the opportunity of growing salad from TSS, he became interested to grow TSS and follow the direction from our TFO. At that time, it's around 2020. The TFO is Ganang. He is the speaker today. He grew TSS in 500 square meter and spent around 120 US dollar for the cost of cultivation. And after the shallot was harvested, he got net income of 1,200 US dollar. And then I move to the right side. There are two pictures. The top side is the woman farmers in Sumba, East Nusa Tenggara. It is the middle part of Indonesia. They are very happy to grow shallots from true shallot seeds. On the other side, in the bottom part, there is Mama Aleida, a local Papua farmer who is successful in harvesting the shallot Lokananta variety during the COVID pandemic. She got a very high price at that moment since a lot of vegetables could not be distributed to Biak Papua during the pandemic situation. And then let me also share the shallot market information in Indonesia. So like what I mentioned at the beginning, that shallot are mostly around 70%, 75% produced in Java Island, which makes the other areas in Indonesia sometimes has less supply of shallot because of the delay in the distribution. And then shallot production has been steadily growing in the last few years from around 1 million tons in 2013 to 1.9 million tons in 2022. The market characterized it is in Java. The market characterized by existence of many producers and relatively a few traders, or in other words, we can say it is oligopsony markets. Demand for shallot in Indonesia increased in line with the trend of population growing. Demand changed during annual national holiday like Idul Fitri, Christmas, and New Year. And also based on socio-economic survey in 2019, the consumption of shallots keep on increasing. In 2021, shallot consumption is expected to reach almost 1.2 million tons. And then I move to the right side. There is a table of demand versus supply of various kind of vegetables. This data is collected by Australian Indonesia Partnership Prisma in Papua and West Papua. In Papua and West Papua, only around 4% of shallot demand can be provided by local farmers. The rest is coming from the other areas. It creates an opportunity for our farmers because the shallot price is quite high time by time in Papua and West Papua area. So this is the shallot price information. The price increases along the supply chain. Activities conducted by some we call middlemen also add value to the shallot products. In the shallot distribution process, shallot farmers sell their harvest, meaning it is in the farmer's gate price is around 1 USD or 15,000 rupiah, Indonesian rupiah per kilograms. However, end consumers usually buy the shallots in the market around 2 USD or around 30,000 rupiah per kilogram. In Papua, several farmers also do direct selling their harvested product of shallot in the wet markets. So the farmers will be able to get the end consumer price because they do the direct selling to the market, meet the consumer directly, and it will be more profitable for the farmers. Okay, I will stop here. I think that's all from my side. And then my friend Ganang will continue to share about the TSS cultivation. Ganang, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Arga, Lisa, for the opportunity. Okay, I will continue the presentation. I will explain about TSS cultivation. Success is healthy seedling. It represents a new phase for Indonesian farmers in shallot cultivation using seeds. Currently, many farmers in Indonesia still predominantly opt for bulk cultivation due to a lack of knowledge. Farmers are not yet familiar with seedling preparation. Our task is to conduct intensive awareness campaign and transfer knowledge related to this matter. Additionally, farmers face a challenge in seedling preparation. The key to success in planting from TSS list in the quality of the seedling. Okay, next. Okay, tips for calculating seed need and harvest yield. Tips for calculating seed need and harvest yield. This is a question frequently asked by farmers. How much seed is needed for an area of 500 square meters? What is the recommended seed bed area for 100 of seed? And so on. Here are some tips on how to calculate it. First, calculating seed need can be done by using the formula of dividing the land area in square meter by 2. Then determining the result in gram of seed needed. For example, for 500 square meter, dividing it by 2 yield an estimate of 250 gram of seed required. Next, when we want to calculate the planting area, the formula is to multiply the seed weight by 2. For example, if I have TSS seed weighing 100 gram, my estimate for the planting area would be 200 square meter. This estimation is based on the assumption that the sown seed have a 75% germination rate. Okay. Then to calculate the area of the nursery, the formula is divide the seed weight by 10. For instance, if I have seed weighing 100 gram, my nursery area will be approximately 10 square meter, assuming a seeding rate of 10 gram per meter. Okay, this represent a nursery with an ideal density. Okay. Next. Okay. Back. Lastly, calculating production estimate is done by multiplying the seed weight in gram by 3 or 4. For example, if my seed weight is 500 gram, the estimate harvest I can obtain is between 1,500 kilogram to 2,000 kilograms. Okay. Next slide. Okay, the cultivation phase of salad begins with quality seeds. These seeds are sown and the seedling phase is a critical step in TSS cultivation. Seedling will be ready for transplanting when they reach 30 to 40 days after sowing. There are three key success factor in seedbed in nursery preparation. First, crumbled media, shading, and watering as needed. The common seedbed medium we use consists of a mixture of rice husk, soil, and manure in ratio 1:1:1. If If one of the media component is unavailable, alternative media can be used. For example, if rest hustle is not available, sand can be used. Sand is utilized to make the medium crumbly. Sign of crumbly media in seedbed is the lifting of the seed cell when the seed germinate. Okay. Salad plant will be ready for harvesting at the age of 65 to 72 days after planting. The timing of the harvest is highly influenced by the cultivation practice applied. Uh, the harvested shallot can be dried for 3 to 7 days with exposure to sunlight. Okay. Following the drying process, the harvested produce can be stored in a storage facility and later made available for sale. Okay, next. There are two common seedbed method used. First is the open field seedling. This is done by sowing seed in rice bed. The advantage of this method are that it is easy to implement and cost effective. The second method is close to the main vegetable farm, which provide convenient. However, the drawback of this method include high risk of dumping off, high risk of flooding, and low germination rate. Okay. Additionally, there is the Protect Seedling Nursery. We create a seedbed in box. The advantage of using this method include good uniformity, high quality seedling, and low risk of dumping off, since the seed are positioned within a box. Another advantage is the protection from floods and animal. However, the downside of using this method is the higher cost associated with nursery construction. Okay, currently we are exploring the development of a seedbed method using pottery. Some farmer have tried it, and the transplanting time significantly shorter, just 20 days after planting. However, this is still in the development stage. Okay, next. Okay, seedling ready to transplant. The characteristic of seedling ready to transplant are sturdy, with freshly grown leaves, typically at 6 weeks of egg, and having 5 6 leaf blades. Okay. Thank you. I'll right back to you, Mr. Arga, for the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganang, for your presentation. So, let me share the conclusion of our presentation. So, TSS is the new technology that makes growing shallots more efficient. It's also the solution to the farmers to produce higher yield of shallots. Binatani has been supported by Ewindo to expand the service area to introduce the TSS technology to the farmers. Ewindo gives the updates of product knowledge, especially for TSS information to the Binatani teams. Maybe the presentation today is not too detailed on how to grow shallots from TSS and then the maintenance until its harvest. But if you interested to know more detail about the true shallot seed good agricultural practices, please contact us. Okay, thank you for your attention. Lisette, I will back the floors to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arga, and thank you, Ganang, for great sharing of this experience in Indonesia, the True Shallot Seeds. It was a very good presentation, and also I've seen a lot of your success in introducing this TSS in Indonesia. So now we're welcome to open the floor for questions from our participants. So please don't hesitate to add your questions in there. And also you are welcome to turn on your mic and ask your questions. I think I've received already 2 questions, Ganang and Arga. First question from Renalyn Armila from the Philippines. In growing shallot seedlings in trays, what is the size of the trays being used? I think you mentioned, Ganang, that you also explored the trays in seedling production. So what is the size of the seedling trays that are you currently using?
So we have many types of seedlings tray actually. If we Ghana already present protected seedling nursery with the table. If we see in the picture, the width of the table is around 80 centimeters until 100 centimeters, and then the length it's around 1.5 until 2 meters. It is like on the nursery tables, so we can sow with the row the seeds, then we can protect with the some shade or insect nets to protect the seedling. And also a window already found new research that we can use the seedling tray that very common in the farmers in use for the chili tomatoes, so we can use that seedling trays, and it can make the duration of seedling preparation shorter, so it can be transplanted on around 25 days after the seedling sowing if we use the trays for chili or tomatoes, the seedling trays. So
How
you can
many-
25
days?
around 25 days we can transplant it. It is a window mentioned that it has a shorter duration of seedling stage if we use the tray from chili and or tomatoes, but we have to make sure that the sowing medium is crumbed enough. The
Yeah.
proportion of rice husk, soil, and also compost should be like in our crop gate, one by one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you, Arga. The size of the seedling trays, I think that's what Renalyn is asking. So what are the number of cells that you are using currently on the seedling tray? How many seedlings in one tray? You know, the size of the seedling trays that are using in
Yeah.
Indonesia.
We can use 128 whole seedling trays if you want to use the seedling trays.
From palm for the harvesting stage, just a clarification, is it the 60 to 72 days are included with the seedling stage or not?
65 until 72 days is after transplanting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we have to add around 35 days for the seedling stage.
Another question from Sumi. Thank you, Sumi, for joining us. Sumi, what are the key challenges have you faced for farmers to adopt TSS in Indonesia, and how have you overcome them?
Yes, the key challenge that face the farmers to adopt TSS is about the farmers mentioned that planting shallot from TSS is too long. It takes time because if we start from sowing until harvesting, it can be more than 100 days growing shallots. So it is the first challenge. And then the second challenge, the farmers have less experience on growing true shallot seeds because the critical pace of true shallot seeds in the seedling stage. If our sowing medium's not cramp enough and it is too wet and too dry, it is very sensitive in our seedling. So the combination of sowing medium and water, it's very required to apply on that seedling stage. That's why most farmers feel difficult to maintain in the seedling stage because it is the critical stage on TSS production. And then how we face that challenge. So we always recommend to the farmers because the seedling stage is more than 30 days. So we recommend that they can sow the seedling first and then they can do land preparation, making the bed and spread the basal fertilizers. And after the bed ready, the seedlings also can be transplanted. So it will save their time because some farmers also rent the land. It is not their own land. They rent from the others. So the duration of the period of growing shallot is the important things for the farmers. I hope it's answered your question. Kanang, you want to add?
Ganang, do you want to add on how you overcome those challenges in introducing the TSS to your farmers?
Yes, regarding the problem I experienced, based on my experience in Papua, the challenge of growing shallot from seed is the weather. The challenge of sometimes rainfall is so high. Yes, the crop are demand. In Papua, we still use traditional method. Farming is shifting and use a lot of organic material. Sometimes access to knowledge is still quite difficult. So we usually local material to support cultivation. And access to seed is difficult. We usually buy online is okay.
From Matt, there's a lot of training for farmers to change their growing methods here. Here, maybe in Thailand, Matt. What methods or mediums have been most successful in driving change? Do the traders have any preference for shallot grown from seed? Perhaps uniformity benefits?
We have some methods to approach the farmers to growing TSS. So I already mentioned that the challenge in seedling preparation, it is the critical stage. If we succeed in the seedling stage, we can say that 50% farmers already succeed in growing TSS. And then there's also opportunity for seedling preparation. This is opportunity to make seedling business because in some places also a window train the farmers to be seedling raisers to provide the seedling. So the farmers can buy the seedling that's ready to transplant. It is easier. And if we compare the cost with the shallot bulbs, it's still cheaper if they buying the seedling from the farmers. And yes, for the traders, in some place, they have a preference. They have a preference in colors, in the flavor of the shallots, but it is only in the specific areas. Like in East Java, they prefer the small bulbs with strong pungency, strong flavor and pungency. But in the middle area of Indonesia, like Sulawesi, Sumbawa, they prefer the bigger bulb of shallot. The bigger bulb is we can produce it from TSS. We can just make the spacing more squeezy to produce the small one, and then make larger plant spacing to make bigger bulb from TSS. Yeah. Tapi, yeah, I hope it's answered.
From Aliyu, a technical question. Is formula for calculating seed required per area of nursery bed specifically for this seed, onion, or shallot, or is it applicable to all seeds?
It's applicable for shallot and onion. Without coating, without the original seed of shallot onion, because sometimes they cover onion seed. Yeah, I in same case they cover it, but if the seed, the original one with just a little bit coating of fungicide or insecticide, it is can use by that.
From Vicky, thank you for joining us too. Are current TSS users smallholder farmers or different type of farmers? Do you have mechanical solution to transplant seedling to the field?
Mechanical solution, yes. We, yeah, 4 to 5 years ago, we tried using the seeder for the direct planting in the farm, but it is we face a lot of challenge because when the seed growing, germinating, it will be a lot of disease attack for the small seedling if we do the direct planting, but it is very efficient in the labor. And then we need the requirement, the soil, the bed is should be very cramp, and we recommended it can be applied in the sandy soil, but in the loam and clay it will be difficult the seeder to maneuver. So it is the things that we have done around 4 years ago. And now our teams trying to make to apply the what we call it, the hole maker for transplanting with the specific spacing to transplant the seedling easily. So it is the tools help the farmers to make hole for transplanting. So that's the maybe simple technology that we apply to the farmers to make them easier to do the transplanting.
Hi, Lisa. I might add one point on
Yes.
this mechanical solution.
Yes, please, Pak Edwin.
Yeah, thank you, Arga. Thank you, Ganang. Last 2 weeks, I spoke with one of entrepreneurial farmer in Indonesia. So he used the one row seeder in making a larger nursery. Yet, so it's still mechanical solution for large nursery, meaning he can supply the seedlings to the neighboring farmers. But based on my discussion with him, he's not yet success in making the open field production, for the mechanical row seeder whatsoever. So at the stage of nursery as seedling raiser, it's already a success. Yeah, as long as the soil is sandy, not clay soil, heavy soil. Yeah? So it's an opportunity. What Arga and Ganang already mentioned about the opportunity of seedling business supplying to the neighboring farmers or within the village. Yeah.
So Vicky still has one question on our current TSS users, smallholder farmers or different type of farmers?
Yeah, smallholder farmers. We work with smallholder farmers that they have only less than 2,000 square meters land.
One question from Rutger. How do you convert shallot farmers from bulb maybe to 2SS? Demo showing higher yield. How is percentage of PSS in total shallot production in Indonesia developing?
For east area of Indonesia, especially Papua, Moluccas, we don't face too difficult challenge to convert the farmers from bulbs to the TSS, because in that area in Molucas and Papua, there is availability stocks of planting materials from the bulk. If available, the price is very high, double or triple if we compare the bulk from Java Islands. So it will Ganang have experienced it that he is very easy to convert the farmers, local farmers, and also migrant farmers from the bulbs to the TSS. But maybe in the Java and also the Sumatra area in the west part of Indonesia, we still face that challenge because they still have they have access to buy the bulbs. Maybe it's not too expensive to buy the bulbs, and also the duration of the rent land. So they use bulb because they need fast production from the bulb. I think step by step we introduce this benefit. That's why we always mention the 3M benefit when meet with the farmer, because it is very easy and cost efficient and also profitable using the TSS. That's why this is our approach to the farmers to influence them to convert from the bulk to TSS in the Binatani area. But in the commercial area, yes, they have more strategy, I think, to approach the seedling raisers as the good business, and the surrounding farmers in Java Island can buy from the seedling raisers. And how many percent of TSS in total in Indonesian production? Yes, right now I don't have the update of that percentage, sir. But I will explore more to answer this question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And post on the Binatani WhatsApp group. Thank you very much. I think you also mentioned on the approach or the methodology, and that also it connects to the question of Kapil actually on sharing on-ground awareness programs or activities executed and the results of which farmers successfully adopted this methodology. You mentioned the 3Ms, which is really good marketing strategy. The muda mura may menguntungkan is very good tagline. And also you mentioned that it's good also to approach the entrepreneurs who wanted to get into the seedling business, because this is also a nice way to support farmers in producing a healthy seedlings that is part or one of its main factor in the success of the TSS. So any other programs that you think or you've already done with the Panamera in Indonesia, other than the ones that you mentioned, Arga, to answer Kapil's also question? Arga, Ganang?
Sir Edwin, raise hand, please, by the way.
Yeah, I jumped to Kapil because it's quite related to what to your answer to Rutger. So any other programs to push farmers on using TSS, aside from your marketing strategy on the 3M and also involving the seedling business?
Yes, like in West Papua area, so we collaborate with marketing to accompany the government, because right now there is a lot of requests from the local governments to get the extension, to get the training for their government field staff on how to growing TSS in their area, and they directly communicate with the commercial team of Ewindo to purchase some seeds with the government budget. Now it's already happened in Papua area, and in Java in some area is already happened, and then if it is in Binatani area, the commercial team will contact us, and we will provide the training to the government field staff. So it is the collaboration with the Ewindo to expand our service in some area that it is potential to grow TSS, not only TSS but also the other vegetables.
Thank you very much, Arya. That's a very good point that you mentioned, the collaboration with the commercial team in Indonesia. I think Sir Edwin has an additional point. You raise your hand, Sir Edwin.
Yes, Lizette. Yeah, the last
Yes.
question of Rutger about the
Oh, sorry.
percentage of TSS contribution for shallot production in Indonesia. Yeah, it's a business commercial question, but I will try my best to still looking into the TSS product supplier in Indonesia. The biggest still a window is Wesit. Then there is Hurut and Sulut, and there's Bezo. So estimating of those activities, Rutger still below 5%. Still dominant 90 or more than 90% of shallot production in Indonesia is still with bulbs planting materials. So a lot of room for TSS. Even the commercial colleague mentioned, even only 10% of the market being supplied by TSS, then it's a very, very huge business opportunity. So room to go for making more demo plots. Arga mentioned about the key stakeholders, local governments, invite local governments to the successful TSS harvest, and then it's rolling out to more use. I hope it can answer a bit to Rutger question. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Edwin,
Thank
for
you,
that
Pak Edwin.
data. Thank you, and long way to go to 10%. Thank you very much, also Rutger and Kapil, for the question. Ongkin from Myanmar. Which season do you grow onion in Indonesia? And yeah, he also wanted to know the duration of growing season.
Most of the farmers growing shallot in the early raining season. Sometimes some farmers going to do rice, some farmers grows vegetables. In some area, they will grow shallot after rice. The rice season is around November until February, and then in Maret they start vegetable. In some shallot production area, they will grow shallot start in March until around August, September, he said.
Okay, thank you very much, Arga and Ongkin. I hope you got that answer from Yusuf.
Thank you.
Thank
you for answer.
Okay,
Because,
so I think you want to grow
I
in
know-
Myanmar as well?
Yes, Indonesia is rainy all the whole year. So how they overcome in the onion growing?
Okay, good question. I think good follow-up question from Ongkin, Arga. How do you overcome the rainy season challenge in growing TSS or growing shallot?
Yes. That's why I moved to TSS because it's sterile and there is no pest from seed-borne disease. So yes, it will be a challenge when we grow TSS in the rainy season. But we have a strategy that before we grow the shallot, so we can make sure that to see the weather forecast first. If the rain too high, we can change to the we can recommend farmers to change with the others vegetables crop that will be more suitable for the rain season. But if the weather forecast still good, we can still use the to grow shallots, and we will give the prevention strategy to avoid the fungi attack because mostly in the rainy season we will face Alternaria and Fusarium as the main pest, main fungi attack the shallots production. That's why we will combine the IPM strategy if the farmers will grow the SS in the rainy season. And also we also use rain shelter. Rain shelter is good, but it is need more cost at the beginning. But in some area during the rainy season, the price will be so high. If we invest for rain shelter, it will be the right investment in some area in Indonesia. Yeah, I
Thank
hope
you very
it's
much,
Thank
Arga.
you.
Thank you. Sir Edwin, do you have additional point? Just managing the time again is 4. Sorry, but it's very
Yes.
interesting discussion. We still have 3 questions. Sir Edwin,
Yeah, very
quick
interesting.
addition.
Yeah, with regards to the planting season or planting calendar, we have to say thank you to our R&D colleague, yeah, for varietal improvement. Last 10, 15 years, only one variety we have, yeah, OP variety. But now we have hybrid. We have a better composite variety from our R&D, from our commercial company. So it's also a good offering. So spreading the planting season calendar. We have variety like what mentioned by Ganang, Sunrem. It's also good for rainy and also dry season. Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Edwin. Thank you very much. And I really like the idea, your approach on working together in Indonesia, like YBTS, R&D, commercial team. A good collaboration in pushing this TSS. So great job, everyone. 3 more questions, sorry, but can I ask you to answer it quickly, shortly? So what type of soil shallot requires to grow best?
Yeah, loam and sandy soil is our recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, loam and sandy, thank you. From Renaline, I think you mentioned Arga, Fusarium, and another one on the major pests and diseases. Are there any more from the one that you mentioned on the major pests and diseases observed in shallot?
Yeah, Fusarium and Alternaria, the most disease for shallots, especially in
And
rainy
insect
season.
pests? Insect pests, do you have observed also
Insect pests, yes, Lepidopteran,
Okay.
armyworm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. One last from Vicky. I'm so sorry. It's a very interesting discussion, but we have to end with the time that we have at the moment. Vicky, have you tried to use traders to push the implementation of TSS? A very good question. I think it's also related to Matt's question on the traders a while ago. Or you focus mainly on farmers. So have you also considered working with the traders?
We build communication with the traders, and in some area the traders have no preference. That's why we can connect the farmers with the traders directly. The farmers who grows shallot from TSS can sell to the traders, and sometimes traders they only need shallots. It's coming from TSS, it's coming from bulbs. They don't care about it. That's why in every our field day, we also invite the traders to also to introduce them. That is coming from the seed, the shallot seeds, and it can be grows anywhere, anytime, because we don't need to wait the planting materials from bulb. So we also educate to the traders about what is TSS.
Thank you very much. I think that's all from our participants, and thank you everyone. And then might be wanting to check also is the post-harvest handling. Is there any impact on the or a benefit from post-harvest storage or the shelf life of those coming from the TSS, and also compared with the bulk? Maybe that's a way also to encourage the traders to push the TSS. I don't know, maybe something that you can test also from your side, Arga and Ganang, in the future. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ganang and Arga, for this presentation, this discussion, sharing. Thank you. And also to our audience who stayed with us until the end, even we have 5 minutes of, extra 5 minutes. That's the end of our episode. Do you have any questions you would like to be answered in the future episodes or topics that you would like to learn more about? Leave your questions or suggestions in the comment section or contact our technical support hub members in your country. Stay tuned for the next episode of Around the Veg Table. Curious about vegetables? Talk to Iswesi. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Sir Edwin, for the
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lisa.
Edwin.
Thank you, Arga.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.